next to her. Because I know no one will throw one at her.
Good luck.
Good luck to you, sir.
No security here yet. It'll take me at least one throw to get thrown out.
Got it.
We plan on running really long.
No. Under no circumstances do it. Darth Null, have you recovered from your food poisoning? Excellent.
There was food poisoning.
There was no food poisoning. There was some good trolling of Darth Null, though. She used a fake account pretending to be G-Mark and said that Darth Null had food poisoning, so he needed to tweet him the answers. All right, we're good. You want to get cranking?
Go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry,
yes.
noise.
Every year, Heidi threatens, this is the year I'm going to do on the con. And then I get up on stage because she gets nervous. So
that's not true.
That's not entirely true. She's going to do more this year than she has in the past. That's not to say she doesn't do a lot of work. It's just I'm the one who gets to be the talking head, which confuses people because they're like, you're the person that runs Shmoocon. I'm like, oh no, I am not. It's way above my pay grade. So this is on the con.
Bruce hasn't seen any of these slides.
Now, it's just, except for the fact that 90% of the words are the same. So I think, we're spinning in the back, right? We're all hot? Okay. So for those that,
You're hot.
see how I get these questions answered for me? I get my validation, you know, I ask, are we hot? And people think it's about the, it's really about how sexy I am. Wow, jokes are falling flat already. This is good. This just started the whole thing. For those that don't know, we run Own the Con. We've been doing this for 8 years where we disclose all the information. Actually, maybe we've been doing it the whole time. I don't remember.
We did do it the first year.
Shmoocon 1's kind of far in the back.
We just didn't use these slides.
We didn't use these
the first
slides.
year.
And these slides are actually cut and pasted from Keynote and then into PowerPoint and then saved as PowerPoint X. So there's like literally no graphics, but I think it's like a 10 gig file now. And it's corrupt all the time. We run Own the Con in an effort to provide information to the community in order to help people who are looking to run their own conferences, also to validate the work that we've done. You spend money, you spend time hitting F5, trying to come here, or whatever, you should know what you got for your time and your effort. And so this is kind of a procedural thing. We'll take questions from the audience, but part of this is to capture this for posterity. We want it online for people to be able to download later. We want the talk, the presentation itself to be online, and there's a lot of stuff we want to make sure that we get through just to make sure that it's captured. Because again, if you're not at the con, the only record that you have of what happened is the online material. So there's a lot of numbers here. Some of it may not be interesting. Hopefully you find it interesting. We do. But at the end of the day, this is for you and the greater community. So that said, we're going to go through and talk a little bit about our structure. We are an LLC. We're not a 501c3. 501c3s are a fair bit of work. Oh, we bored the first 2 people already. Bye, sirs. Bye. Take care. See you at the party. It turns out I've actually done that to a few people that I shouldn't have done it to. Found out later who they were, and I'm like, oops, sorry. I probably shouldn't do it I'm sorry, guys. You accept my apologies? I got a salute, I guess. Okay, we're good. All right, we're square. For posterity, that's been saved. It turns out that LLCs, especially in the state of Maryland where we're incorporated, are super easy to do. They don't require any kind of board, they don't require any kind of pomp and circumstance or special filing, except for the filing that you do every year in April called your taxes. And they rain down upon us, in particular our personal returns. So our personal returns are a mess because I also own another LLC, that's my regular company, and so my personal returns make my accountant very happy because it keeps him busy. It's not complicated. How many people have been involved with a 501c3? How many people have been involved in setting up a 501c3? Was it fun? No, it's not. Was it fun to run them? I mean, it's a good mission, right? I mean, you run a nonprofit and it's a good mission, but frankly, we'd rather just kind of pay the tax and not get the advantages and not have all the overhead because we have other things to do, like raise our kids and run an actual company. So, organizational structure. Again, this is the same as last year and many years before it. We do most of our planning on email, some via phone. the Shmoo group, where this all originally came from, was a very distributed group of people. We had people in Alaska, California, Washington, Virginia, other countries. We didn't get together maybe at DEF CON. Like that was usually like the grand Shmoo meetup was at DEF CON each year. So we were very used to the gate and process of working in email. Now, what works for us may not work for you. I know other conferences that meet in IRC, you know, you have big telecons, whatever it is, you know, but this is what works for us. And we find we stay pretty focused on task. You know, there isn't a lot of banter about what, you know, things that aren't related to con, because email, I guess, is antiquated now. Will soon go the way of, I don't know, Gopher and Usenet or something. We do have, I am just bombing, it's terrible. I made the Gopher joke already this week, so people are like, whatever, Gopher was funny yesterday, it's not funny today.
Still funny today.
Thank you, man, I appreciate it. Well, that's good.
It's funny every day.
Yeah, that's the, well, you and I may be of a different generation, in fairness. Although you're a proficient tweeter, so, Twitterer, I don't really know. I won't. We just went there last night. We have a number of mailing lists, and we segregate it up, you know, so to get to the good stuff. Conference dates and venues. So here's the deal. Running a conference in DC has some complications. One, hotels are kind of expensive. It's hard to find one that's of sufficient size to hold 1,700, 2,000-ish people. But on an inauguration year, an interesting thing happens. The inauguration pushes all events to the side. So it's not that we conflicted with the inauguration, it's the fact that there's about 2 weeks less in the year to plan events that you're going to have in DC. So, and in particular, when you're at the Washington Hilton, they are the only official actual presidential ball. And so they may even have a little bit more drift than other hotels do when it comes to inauguration time. So we're back in the Hilton next year. We signed the contract in like late 2011, I think, for the 2014 event at the Hilton. We were actually trying to plan ahead, but 2013 was a blank. There's no way to get in the Hilton, so there's a couple of hotels, a couple of Hyatts and other places, and we ended up here. So we'll be back at the Hilton next year, and then we'll see where we go from there. We've had good feedback from our experience here, but we've also had good feedback from the Hilton, and there's other places we're going to look at as well. So just so you're clear, you know, how many people have been to DEF CON, Black Hat? When's DEF CON? Yeah, last weekend in July, first weekend in August, right? Like clockwork, you know.
And Shmoocon.
And Shmoocon, you know, Super Bowl weekend, Valentine's Day, first day of spring, you know. January.
Sometimes in March.
Yeah, we've moved around a lot. We learned lessons from, frankly, when our kids get cranky, that Shmoocon was scheduled right before or after their birthdays. Oops. You know, when you have Shmoocon too early in January, we don't have Christmas.
Well, that's
Oops.
next year.
Yeah, then next year it's pretty early. So it's difficult, and even it affects the CFP. You know, we have to see the CFP responses in early and all that kind of stuff. So the date floats. Sorry, but that's a fact of life. Speaker selection.
Like that, I said wee bit.
A wee bit, just a wee bit. It's a friend
scotch.
for our people from the kingdom, the United Kingdom. A scotch. We had 197 submissions, a little bit down from last year, but not an appreciable amount. We had a lot of talks come in the early bird. I think more this year than last year by a fair bit. A lot of people wanted to make the first round selection. How many talks did we accept in the first round? I want to say 4.
4 or 5?
4 or 5. So it wasn't a huge advantage to come in early. We asked people to come in early. Frankly, it makes the CFP's, the program committee's life easier, but it isn't something that I think we've biased toward before. As we get more talks, maybe there will be bias. We used OpenConf again. It's an open source conference management tool. It's kind of hard to Google for sometimes because there's several things called OpenConf. But if you Google OpenConf conference management, you'll find it. They have a paid version, which actually does lots of useful stuff that I think in the last few years we've been kind of manually generating lists and writing scripts to send things and all kinds of crap. And I think we're done with that. Yeah, we're going to pay for the full version this coming year because it turns out some of that minutia, it's easier just to pay to get it out from underneath it. So we have a small, I guess, 14 people selection committee this year. And a dedicated group of people, had a handful of them read every single talk that came in. It's a lot of work. How many people submitted to the con? Well, Carson is really excited. Carson, did you get accepted?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why he's so excited. He was very excited. So what's interesting...
Carson was a first-time speaker.
Carson was a first-time speaker. Congratulations. Many-time listener, first-time speaker. Yay, go Carson! And he still had to. Did you take pictures while you were on stage?
You know, I did.
Did you really? You're not supposed to.
Throw them out.
Throw them out. That's it. You're out. Oh, of you. Okay. That's a big ass lens to take pictures of yourself. Let me a self shot. So what's interesting is our submission process isn't complicated, actually, but based on our panel yesterday, it may become a little more complex to give us a better feeling for vetting some of these talks. Even when all you have is an abstract and detailed outline, it's a lot of work to read 200 of these things and try to provide feedback and try to score it and all that kind of stuff. So, we do our best to be as honest as we can, but I know, like, I'll get in a rut when I'm reviewing. I'll review like 20 in a row, and either I'm really optimistic, oh, this talk is about unicorns, we should accept it. Like, there's no technical content at all, but it seems like a good idea because I'm wasted. Or I'm super grumpy and read like the 8th submission that looks exactly the same in a row, I'm like, reject, and I'm like, no. I'd
Bruce
take a
was
break for the
really
night.
happy this year. He liked everything.
I did like a lot of talks. I was very, except for a few that I did not like, and then Noise yelled at me, and other people yelled at me, and then he corrected it all, so it was all better. Stats. We have different numbers on these two slides.
We do?
Perfect. So, yes, Mohawk Keith.
Do you ever go and find speakers? Like maybe there was someone that wrote a tool or somebody like C-speak and then call them or track them down and ask them to speak?
Sometimes.
So the question for those playing along at home is, do we ever go out and hunt down speakers because of a tool or some other thing that they have?
Yes, sometimes.
In summary,
Don't ask me to name
yes.
any right now, but yes.
The keynotes that we've had and the panels that we have, we've gone out and found,
And sometimes we haven't.
and sometimes they come to us, and sometimes we pick the keynote out of the pool.
Which
It
is
really
not
just
to say
depends.
they come to us and say, hey, keynote.
Yeah.
But we've been known to pick the keynote out of the CFP submissions.
Right, and say this looks really good, and we're just going to grab it.
This is the correct number, by the way. I
202.
apologize.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Still
so,
down from last year, though.
I think one of the things that's interesting is, we try to, like I kind of mentioned this yesterday, we try to do the best thing for the community with our talk selection. I think we are definitely biased toward things that are new. We're definitely trying to do things we think are going to be of benefit to you. And I think it makes our program committee eye things a little bit differently than what we see otherwise. So we may not hunt things out. I think that we do have a different tack to get to our selection process than other organizations do. It was a 17 to 18% acceptance, which actually puts us in a kind of an interesting area. I mean, that's a pretty low acceptance rate, all things being equal. So there's a lot of, I was talking to someone, or a speaker that didn't make it earlier today, I'm like, it's amazing the talks that you review, you think this is a good talk, this is a good talk, this is a good talk, and then you look at the end and the talks that didn't make the cut there's some good material there. And then Fire Talks picked up some of them, other places they end up at other conferences. So I think the good material still shows up, just not here. We had a breakdown, 221 male, 16 female, and one bear. I'll give you one guess which bear it was. Thank you. In particular, the DEF CON version. Although he actually retracted the talk, so I'm not sure what happened. If he decided he didn't want the publicity, because the DEF CON pedo bear just, he abhors publicity.
Did he retract the talk?
He did retract the
I
talk.
don't know. So what's interesting about this is that this percentage of, again, best guess female to male submissions is coincidentally the same or darn near the same percentage of what we actually accepted on our stages this year. So I thought that was cool because we didn't plan for it, we didn't try for it, it just sort of happened.
Yeah, the ratio ends up being about the same in the accepted talks to the submitted talks for male to female. And this is, as pointed out, just kind of a guess on names. It's not to say it's 100% correct, but it's in the right order.
Aaron can be kind of, we don't know sometimes until they get here. So.
Right. A number of talks, most talks came in on our new track, Belay It. And I think part of that may have been there were some break it kind of people who thought, well, break it's not there, but maybe if I just submit under Belay It, like they'll just pretend that break it's still there. There was a lot of offensive stuff submitted under Belay It. Speaking of some more talk breakdowns, you can see the trend in talk submissions. Again, we were on a nice upward slope for a while, but I guess, I don't know, February DC, who knows. We do this breakdown here, and this is kind of an eye chart. The blue is hardware and electronics, the green is defensive, the yellow is offensive, and there's a big miscellaneous category. We can make other categorizations, but they end up being very tiny, so we just don't bother. We just bin them as miscellaneous. And you can see, this year we did try to get a push for more defensive talks. We saw a greater ratio and a greater absolute number of defensive talks, lower ratio and lower absolute number of offensive talks. So, a little bit of a nudge got us some progress. We're going to keep nudging in that direction and see what it gets us next year. Here's the number of accepted talks compared, so again, defensive, offensive, miscellaneous, and hardware from, that would be right to left, because people read right to left. So again, we accepted actually way more defensive talks this year than in years past. So we were certainly biased, and we were real about our kind of threat, if you will, that we're going to focus more on defense than we have in the past. So, and I wouldn't even say this was necessarily intentional. Like at the end of the day, I don't think we sat down and said, we don't have enough defensive talks, we need more defensive talks. The program committee eyed the submissions this year.
We did introduce a new track.
We did introduce a new track, but we still had a lot of offensive submissions, but I think we had way more of an acceptance of defensive talks based on the program committee's input, and I think that's because they just had that eye on the whole time. So it's hard to overstate this. How the heck, first, follow directions. I don't know if I put them on the slide.
I did.
Oh, you did, thank you. We don't have a complex process to submit. And I'll admit, an annotated outline may be kind of a foreign concept to people, and we're going to provide example CFP submissions next year to help you understand what an annotated outline means when we ask for that. But it's not bullet point 1, intro, bullet point 2, all the talk material, bullet point 3, closing. Okay, is that good enough for you? No, under no circumstances is that good enough. People don't put the talk title in, people don't put the name in.
It also makes it difficult on the back end when we're trying to gather the material out of your submission. I want to open that submission and I want to see your bio as bullet number 2, so I can quickly grab that. And if I'm having to dig through that, I get cranky.
It does. It makes, actually, across the board, if your bio isn't strong, if things aren't in place, it makes our life very difficult. Because when you multiply that times 10, times 20 for the people
I'm
that
looking
didn't
at
do
you,
it.
Scott Moulton.
Scott. He's kind of a big deal. Yeah, exactly.
Little Scott Moulton.
Yeah, we almost made a bio up for you.
I did. It was happy.
So, I think I think we took a harder line this year than in years past about people that didn't follow directions. Like, if you didn't basically create a compliant response, we really didn't want to create a compliant response on our end. It was like you get a kind of a 1. It was a scale of 1 to 6 in OpenConf, so 1 is obviously not the best. You want the largest number possible, not the smallest. Put some effort into it. There were certainly some talks that I don't think the effort was put into, or some submissions, excuse me, and it shows, especially as we got closer to the first submission deadline, that early submission deadline. There's some things that came in like 11:58 that I'm pretty certain was just someone's head rolling on the keyboard.
All right, so let's talk about that for a second, though, because, at least a couple of those came in because...
Because what?
Because what?
What
do we do?
Who's on first? I don't understand.
I don't know. Who here knows what our super secret thing that we've done for the last few years for speakers who don't get accepted? I refuse to call them rejected speakers. Anybody?
You get a barcode.
You get the ability to buy a barcode. Guess what? That's changing next year. And I'm not going to tell you how it's going to change, but it's changing next year. It's not just submit, don't get accepted, get in.
So, yeah, think about that and take it to heart. But we want good submissions. We want well thought out submissions. And I think this goes, and again, last night's panel, I don't know if a lot of people checked out and were out eating, but
it was dinner time. It
was dinner time. I think a lot of interesting things came out of it, and one of the things that fell out of it, I think, was that the conferences, these ad hoc, hacker, whatever community conferences, are kind of a gatekeeper for information into the public knowledge, into our corpus that we use every day to do our jobs. And in the academic community, you have advisors, you have this whole process of review and things like that. We don't have that. And what it boils down to are program committees at conferences making the decision, yeah, this thing is worthwhile getting on stage and this thing isn't. And it's kind of there's a lot of conferences, so you can shop around and usually get on stage even with a crappy idea, to be frank. But I think that it's important for the program committee to understand kind of the weight put on their shoulders to say, this damn well better be a good talk, because once they get on stage, people are probably going to believe it. Even if they get pelted with shmoo balls, You don't see that when you look at the presentation online. You just start citing it, right? And so I think we're probably going to end up with a more stringent CFP process to get a little more detail, so we know not necessarily a fully baked research material what it's going to be, but to have a better ability to assess what's going on. Because we don't want to do the wrong thing by letting people get on stage and say things that are incorrect or not fully baked or whatever. You know, sometimes not fully baked is okay because of the nature of the research, and sometimes it's because the person was flat out lazy, right? And so there's a lot of responsibility there. So don't be surprised if there's a few changes. Sales model. The cart worked, man. Like, wow, it was freaking magic. The first round came through, it was November 1, and it was like, oh, we're done. And I'm not freaking out, and the data center's not on fire, and Twitter's not full of angry people that, well, half the people aren't angry because they got tickets, the other half of the people are angry because they didn't get tickets. It is a super simple, single-threaded app that runs on our one box, single server, and it works great. Now here's the kicker. We still run all our back-end kind of business logic. It's all Django driven, which is what we tried to use originally to do the front-end sales. And what we found is things like Django and these big frameworks are fantastic for all the day-to-day maintenance when Heidi has to issue tickets and revoke tickets and deal with the sponsors and convert all this stuff, like click, click, click. And you know, Darth Null's been helping out with that. He's been fantastic at building an interface to help us with that. That's great. When it came time to scale that to actually sell tickets in the face of the crush, you know, of people trying to hit the server. I know that someone told me last night, they actually told me about their bot. I'm like, yeah, we hit it once a second for 5 seconds, and then we hit it with a 30 hits per second, and then we hit it once a second for 5 seconds, then we hit it with 30 in a second, and we just keep cycling through that. I couldn't figure out why, except I guess they were less of a jerk if they waited 4 seconds and just hammered the server. So it's clear that people are writing bots and beating the shit out of this thing, and Django just does not put up with that well. You know, we had 6 servers in a cluster, and like, I mean, my God, they were still getting destroyed. So our solution here to use a framework for the back-end process and use some lightweight C-Think for the front ends worked great. We had this Capacha in place, and the Capacha wasn't like reading fuzzy letters. It was just prove you're human, you know? Spell the word red, R-E-D, next. Okay, good. And though I know some people got tripped up with don't click this, click that, and they click the, as I recall, you may have been tripped up by that. Did you? I could have sworn that you tweeted. We can go back through the Twitter archives. I could have sworn that you clicked not on this where it said not on this.
He wasn't the only one who maybe did or did not do that. How about that?
All right. Did or did.
I don't think it was him.
Somebody in the back is raising their hand. I'll just pretend it's you. So okay.
You're his proxy.
Yeah, you're my proxy. So there's a lot of stats here. I'm not going to go through it all, but I think one of the interesting things, and people, we saw a lot of feedback on what?
I was looking.
Okay, a lot of feedback online about, oh, all these bots get all these tickets. I'm like, here's the deal. We try to develop a system that at the front end stops bots from being successful in reserving tickets. Secondarily, we isolate the reservation process from the sales process for 2 reasons. One, if the server is cratering, we don't want people trying to buy tickets through the same server because then you get all kinds of credit card transactions in weird states, and credit card processors don't like that. They get really pissed off when we have to refund like $20,000 when we haven't done any business for the previous 11 months, right? That's something that makes them really nervous. But secondarily, we review all the transactions. There's that hour window or 2-hour window in between, and we're sitting there digging through the logs, looking at IPs, looking at emails, you know, and trying to understand where are the trends. Did anyone game us? Has somebody figured out something that we didn't account for and got 20 or 30 or 40 tickets? You know, and once it's all okay, you know, if there's any issues, we deal with the people that we have issues with, and the rest get released for purchase. So, you know, we spend time trying to validate, trying to make it as fair as we can to the live people that are sitting there clicking buttons. Yes, question.
So it's a great test for the conference itself. It had to sell out a certain amount of time in space in case of your ability to help raise the community and really kind of pull in the same direction. With the estimates here of the online viewers here, I'm wondering if you have an estimate of what your potential could be if you had combination of your online viewers and your ticket sales, if you practice that for the online viewers as well?
So the question is, I guess, first of all, how big are the online viewers and the real viewers kind of together?
Andrea, do we have anybody in this channel right now?
68. And that's, I've heard around 60, 70 people per track, some of them a little higher today. So if you figure there's 180 people participating online, on a Saturday afternoon, that's not too bad. I think the question in my mind is, where's the top end if you just had a wide open sales process? Well, I mean, it's a venue problem at DEF CON too, and you just put people in it, right? And then squeeze around the hallway. And that's not to disparage DEF CON, it's just a lot of people want to go to it, and it turns out maybe Vegas isn't even big enough. So, I don't know where the top end is. I know that there are certain groups of people that, like whole companies want to come, and they can send 2 out of like 20, so I know there's a lot more potential, but we've decided to keep it small, and we'll get into that in a little bit here in a second. We're small as 1,700 people, I guess it's relative. This year we had 1,607 out of 1,662 checked in. That's a really fantastic rate. Last year we were pretty close. I don't know why we said by far our lowest when the year before was actually.
I think that was there from last year. Like I said, I updated.
All right, yeah.
Changed numbers.
You just got to roll with it. The numbers are basically correct.
It's mostly recycled. If it's quasi-true.
Look, it's late Saturday, yeah.
Usually we're doing it late Sunday.
So compared to the Snowmageddon year, where we had a fairly large number of no-shows, this year's been relatively few no-shows. We had about 58 speakers, 70 staff, 10-ish press, equals about 1,700 people. Press and/or. There's a difference between air quote and press.
How many press were there?
I'm
not even gonna go there. This is a conversation that has no good ending. But I think it's interesting, this venue, when we toured it, I don't know that we had a sense of how well it would work for this many people, especially down at the bottom here and stuff, and transitioning between talks. What was people's feeling? Did it work out for the size pretty well, or?
Not horrible.
Not horrible.
Right?
That's a ringing endorsement.
Good.
I've been able to walk everywhere I wanted to walk.
Yeah.
That's good. I'd hate if you had to crawl.
I think my employee reviews are usually something like, well, he did an adequate job, I guess. That was Jeff's.
Is that a view?
Yeah. Anyway, I think the space worked out pretty well for 1,700 people. And the Hilton has different issues at 2,000 people than this did, but I think it worked out pretty well.
Oh yeah, have fun.
Yeah, thanks. So some of you don't like it when tickets get sold on eBay. I've heard. First of all, we don't control what people do with their tickets. That's not our game. You don't have to show up here to show ID.
Well, some of you do.
Well, some of you do, like rejected speakers because we don't want you to transfer.
Speakers who weren't accepted.
Speakers who weren't accepted.
Potential speakers.
Non-positive answered speakers. I don't even have anything good for that.
I don't either.
Okay, so some people have to show up and show ID, but for the vast majority of you, show up, your little thing scans, and you get a thing. We don't care who you are, right? I actually asked one of the guys I knew. I saw like one of his tickets get redeemed, and it wasn't him. And I was like, well, that's odd. And I found him later, and he'd give it to a friend. But people can do whatever the hell they want with it. They can barter them, they can sell them, they can give them away. We don't care. Now, eBay's a different deal because there's a feeling that that's the marketplace for secondhand sales. People maybe just be buying tickets to resell on the eBay market, and that's whatever. That's their prerogative. It's your prerogative to buy it. Our stance, and we made it very clear this year, we will not validate sales that move across eBay. It's first come, first serve for the person that shows up with the barcode. So if the guy, whoever's selling it on eBay, sells the same barcode 10 times, whoever shows up first wins. Not our problem. It's an issue you take up with eBay, PayPal, and your local law enforcement, or whoever the hell you want to go complain to about something they're not going to care about. We saw year over year, 1.5% to 2.5% of tickets move across eBay. Now, one thing we will do is if you want to do an at face value sale, we have a list of people who want to go to the con, and if you don't want to go or you can't go or whatever, we'll broker the sale and we'll revoke your ticket and issue new tickets after the sale is completed. And we offered that this year formally on the website. We kind of did it informally before, but we formally offered it this year. And honestly, I think we had a bigger turnout than we anticipated.
It was a lot of work. Yeah. But
And we may have to actually have someone dedicated to doing that next year, because I think it's a good idea, because it's a safe way to sell them, and it doesn't have the markup.
Well, it protects the buyer.
It protects the buyer,
That's
protects the
all it
seller,
does.
and you don't
It
have people
doesn't-
making money, making $300 or $400 on the sale of
don't
the
know
ticket. Well, I guess they could be then extorting them on the side, and we don't know. But come on, only Keith would. I mean, I'm sorry. Oh, wait. He's like, yeah, hell yeah.
I don't give Keith a barcode.
Yes, sir.
Can you speak to, or do you not like to comment on whether that sort of collision pops at reg? Someone shows up and says,
So-
"Here's my barcode," and
only
So the question is, have we had collisions before at registration where people show the same one?
with the same barcode.
Like someone says, here's my barcode.
Sure, it actually,
Says,
well,
"No, you've already checked it."
so, I don't even know if he's in the room, but if he's back at registration, Bob actually gave us tickets. He had 2 barcodes, and he gave them to his friends, and he accidentally sent the same one to the 2 guys, and of course there was a second one. We've seen that happen. Usually it's a mistake. Only one time last year did we have a bad barcode show up at the door. And I said on the, I don't know if any of you read the news post I made about it, but I couldn't remember at the time what I had done, and we turned him away, and then in the end I actually let him in because the guy had emailed me months previous, and we'd had a discussion, and as much as I don't like to validate eBay sales, I had promised him I would validate the ticket, and then he had emailed me in the days before the con, and me being busy, I missed it completely, and he would have known prior to getting here. So I did make it right, and I let him in because I felt responsible. But that is the only time that we've had a bad barcode show.
Right, and that kind of led to our hardline stance on, if you do it on eBay, not our problem. So, makes it very simple. So not a lot of shenanigans, in summary. Why do we stay the same size? How do I count the ways? So one, we want to preserve the feel of the con. We like to think we're a small con. I'm not sure that 1,700 people qualifies as small, but it's small-ish, and you have an experience where you meet new people, but you can see your friends too, and I think that's, that's important.
Hi, friends.
Hi, friends. Yes, we have a lot of friends. I find out I have a lot of friends around ticket sales time. People on LinkedIn, like, hey, we worked together 20 years ago at like a Burger King, can you flip me a ticket?
He actually worked at Taco Bell, just to be clear.
For 3 days. 3 days.
They were going to make him manager.
Yeah. I think I was the only guy not doing meth, so it was a very easy decision. The meth jokes, man, they hit every time. Thank God, Breaking Bad. So it's difficult to find a space in DC that's a little bit bigger. It's easy to find space that's a lot bigger, handle 5,000 people or something like that. It's difficult to find like 2,500. And it seems weird, but you can build a space like this under a hotel and hold 2,000 people. It's hard to build a space under a hotel that holds 3, because you actually need like a half a city block to do that, or even more. And so we find this is an easy size for us to find in DC. And to be frank with the logistics, it's a lot of work.
Did you all see that picture I tweeted, of me in the boxes? Yeah,
No.
that was my dining room.
She's sitting on the pile of boxes going from floor to ceiling in our dining room, and she's like perched up on top of like a little cubby hole we made in the boxes.
And then they didn't let me down.
It was only half the dining room.
It was only half
Well,
the dining room.
We didn't
It was
actually
only
show
the
them
blankets.
boxes on the other side
Yeah.
of the dining room.
That was the other half.
So it's a lot of work to deal, and it scales linearly. I mean, a lot of this does. I'm really happy I run my own company because I can just disappear for 2 weeks and I'm not going to get fired. But Heidi's really full throttle for like a month and a half leading up to the con, where it's wake up, work on Shmoocon stuff, go to bed. About 2 weeks before the con, I start going to work at all, and I get up, work on Shmoocon stuff, and go to bed. And that's my life. And our kids just sit there and stare, like pointing at the box of mac and cheese, like someone can warm this up, please. Like, I'm going to burn myself again, please.
As it stands this year, they're all sick.
They were all sick like the week before the con. Makes it extra exciting. Oh my God.
Bronchitis.
Bronchitis and the flu.
Patient 0.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you get
You
sick,
can blame us, it's okay.
absolutely, we're responsible for con
I
flu this
washed
year.
my hands a lot.
And even like small things, like in years past, we get all the bags delivered on pallets, and then the bag distributor negotiated a new contract, and instead of shipping with freight, they ship with UPS. Not UPS freight, straight up UPS.
We get trucks.
A UPS truck showed up and said, this whole thing's for you. I'm like, really? How is that possible? So, and the thing is, like, even that day I was getting ready, I felt bad. I'm like, I'm gonna go to the office. And I was walking out the door to go walk to the office, and the UPS truck was like in front of me, and the guy's tapping his foot. And I'm like, I know what I'm doing for the next hour and a half, And it's like, it's a lot of work. And I'm not trying to, complain. I'm just saying, people are like, don't you should just get bigger.
Well, a lot of people ask why we
Buy
don't
me a bigger
stage
house.
it, or stage it someplace else, and that hasn't proved to be an option for us.
Right, and even like we stage a lot of stuff at my office, which is, for the guys that work for me, it's a mile away from my house. It's not far, but it's still not my house. And we have to like take the kids down there and go down and work, and people come in, and our office is about 3 feet wide and 30 feet tall, and so it's very
It's got
awkward.
a lot of glass.
A lot of glass, a lot of stairs. You have like 4 flights of stairs in this little tiny building, and so things are just kind of everywhere, and it's not, there's no loading dock. It's all very difficult. And I'm not trying to complain. I'm just saying, like, if you want us to get bigger, we're not, There's other cons. There's other cons that you can go to. We encourage you to start your own cons. That's why we're doing this. Like, please, and we put them in the programs. Go to other cons. Stop filling my garage. Shmooball's back. Did people enjoy it? Holy shit, did I just flinch?
Should I protect you?
What? No, no, you can't protect my pride now.
I took that from you.
Son of a bitch, yeah, I'm trained like a puppy dog, man. Like, I peed on that floor once, never again.
We're saving them all for Molden's talk.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. You know, and we went over this at the opening. You know, it's hard to get something that's an instant feedback as a Shmoo-ball, and it's fun, it's frivolous, and it's amazing how many places I go where people know about it and it compels them to speak, which I think is useful. You know, so take the concept forward. You know, it's the one thing we asked about the Shmoo-ball. It's not just a souvenir; it's an idea, right? You take it away from here, and you know, when someone's spouting bullshit, say bullshit. You know, because sometimes it's not politically correct to throw things, but it's still politically correct to swear. So, you know. So let's talk about money.
My favorite.
The favorite part. So here's the gory details. 118 in sponsors, 195 in ticket sales. That's where we get our money. 2 line items, total $313,000.
That's up from last year.
That is up from last year.
Just a little.
So we'll note, this is what it takes to run a conference like this. Okay, we'll get to the goes out is here in a minute. This is the goes intas. There's a lot of conferences you go to. I mean, certainly the B-sides, they're all free, right? And that's all through sponsor money. And sponsors got to pony up a lot of money to help B-sides out. And God bless the sponsors and God bless the B-sides volunteers for making do with, you know, what they have access to. It's fantastic. And on the flip side, you got, you know, other events that, you know, huge granddaddy type, you know, corporate events that take thousands of dollars. You know, I like to think we offer very similar experiences to what you get for some multi-$1,000 conferences. And it's interesting to see where the money goes.
Well, they don't give food.
We don't give food. And in fairness, food's expensive. Anything you buy from the hotel, you know, Space Rogue shot, whatever else you want to buy, it's expensive stuff. And so when you start serving food, like we could serve you all lunch, and we would bump the price of the ticket up by $30 to $40, and that would just cover the cost, right?
Barely.
You know, barely, right? Like the breakfast that we serve our staff is, what, 20 odd bucks a head?
No, it is. Do you really want to know?
Yeah, I can't remember.
It's like 40 bucks a head.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like a continental breakfast, right? This is
Yeah,
how they make their
some of
money.
it's good.
The hotel likes us, but they don't, hey, you're having a dinner here like us, okay? We fill up the rooms and you guys fill up the bar, but if we were to have a plated dinner, they would really like us. And we would double the price of admission, so.
No, we would triple the price of admission.
So here's what we spend. The space cost us 40 grand.
And this is all, these numbers are all, see the little tilt, well, they don't have tillies, never mind, they should.
These are guesses. I mean, they're not guesses. They're in the ballpark, but it's to give you an idea what it costs. We have to pay for the space. Not a lot. The rooms actually offset a lot of the coverage. When you guys, so the way that this works for those of you that don't know, when you go to a hotel, you do this negotiation, and we say, how much is it going to cost to get all the space? And they say, how many rooms are you going to sell? All right, let's start with 500. All right, for $500, it'll cost you, or 500 room nights, it'll cost you this much money. What if we did 800 room nights? Well, it'll cost you this much money. You know, and you negotiate back and forth. The kicker is, if you miss the room night commitment, you owe the difference. And actually, if you miss 80% of the commitment. So if your commitment's 1,000 rooms and you sell less than 800, you're responsible for the fare of every room below 800. So if it's 160 nights, or $160 a night, and you miss it by 100 nights.
General contracts,
yeah, you owe a lot of money. So, you know, that's the way hotels work. So this year we had no problem selling the block out. You know, for the record, the block here sold rapidly. And I think part of it's we still had November, December, and January 1 for the ticket sales, and the con was later. And cheaper. So we had, the space was cheaper.
No, the hotel room.
The hotel rooms are cheaper. So we sold out faster than we have in the past, where the con's closer to the last ticket sales round and people don't know if they're going yet. So we sold out very early this year. We made our numbers. That was good. Swag, $57,000, give or take, for all this stuff, and that includes the speaker swag and stash swag and that kind of stuff.
I don't think I missed anything. So I mean, that's, again, back at the
Ish.
napkin.
This is ish, you know, and that.
If anything, that number goes
that
up.
includes the cost of the T-shirts that we've donated to EFF and Hackers for Charity too. So, and we still get those printed from a small shop in my hometown where when I was a kid, my brothers and I drove forklifts downtown to lift up their screen printing stuff and put them into their shop. I mean, small little town, we take care of them. So if you need t-shirts printed, they do good quality work, they'll do your art for you. Shirtheads.com. We plug them. About $1,000 in random prizes, $17,000 in equipment. We'll get into that in the next $35,000 party. If you haven't been to it yet, don't applaud. It's a large check to write, I'll be honest, for beer.
Oh, it's more than beer.
Oh, it's more than beer, I guess. Shots, yes. Skydog's like, I paid $12 yesterday, I'm gonna get Skydog. Space Rogue. It's not even really alliteration, is it? I mean, that was just wrong. It's just, I'm sorry, sir. That's all right, okay. Yeah. So it's a big party, it's fun, and we negotiate, and we usually do it at the last minute. So the contract was signed.
Well, he wasn't trying to do
No, but I mean, it's how it works out. Speakers all get $200 or a...
Well, so that number is down from last year because we gave the option for the speakers to give up their honorarium, most of the speakers to give up the honorarium and instead get a +1 ticket, so.
Only, whatever half the speakers decide, less than half the speakers decide to get the honorarium this year, 4,000 and... We buy a lot of freaking tape, man. Like when it comes down to it, we buy a lot of tape. Like every time I go to Staples, like I need more packing tape. Seriously? Like, crap. Credit card fees, $14K. So.
And that's probably up. I haven't changed that number in 4 years.
But it's probably pretty close. Now, if we went to a third party's ticket organization, that number would be much higher. We've finally beaten that problem, so I think we're actually comfortable. I think there were years in the past where we're like, it's time to let someone else deal with this, but I think we've kind of fixed it, so we're okay with that number. $300 for event insurance.
That number went down.
We're a bunch of crazy fucks, to be frank. And the fact that someone will underwrite event insurance for this for $300, I'm like, are you missing some digits? Like, sure, as long as you're not serving alcohol or swimming, it's really cheap. So we don't serve the alcohol. You buy from the hotel. That's their problem. And we sure as hell are not swimming. I don't really have my bikini body ready yet. So thank you. At least one person was turned on by that idea.
And it wasn't me.
And it wasn't. We sponsor other events. We pay quarterly taxes. When you get big enough, you have to pay the government quarterly instead of yearly because they think you might not come back with all your money.
That number's probably gone up too.
And that number's, yeah, that's just a wag.
It's depressing.
What it is, it's a big number as it turns out.
That check is particularly hard to write every year.
So we're up to about $205K, which is a little bit higher than last year. We had to buy some gear. The labs guys, I actually felt bad when I realized when I bought new servers for them last year. I gave them these boxes that they're running all this virtualized stuff on, and I bought them boxes with like 4 gigs of RAM. Like, here you go, it's 2 Xeon processors, you got 8 cores and 4 gigs of memory. And I was going through the mailing list, and they're like, all right, how many VMs can we run if we only do 386 megs of memory per VM? I'm like, oh God, I'm such a jerk. So I ordered a lot of RAM and installed it in the servers, and I think it ran better this year. Yes. Yeah, he's still angry from last year.
He wasn't here last year.
One of our Mac Minis from Reg died, and so we replaced that. With these fancy projectors here, they were $2,500 when we bought them new last year, and then we bought some new ones this year, and they were $2,493. So they've gone down by $7. It turns out they're very nice, like prosumer projectors, and they're quite bright. I mean, I know in years past when we were skimping on projectors, people were like, damn, the screen's kind of dark. And these things, I use these at home in broad daylight on the wall, and I can see just fine. Like, we watch movies outside, and you can project them in the day. It's pretty cool. We bought some laptops, a desktop, a bunch of other shit, and at least $150 of gaff tape. So, yeah, it's a lot of gaff tape. Gaff tape isn't cheap, as it turns out. There's money left over, 100K, give or take. We've got some ideas for next year. And we say that, but it was pretty clear, I think, in the opening, things are changing a little bit. We're going to get serious about getting students here. We're going to get serious about preserving the information that's presented here in probably alternative ways. We're going to change the way we do business. It's time. We've been doing this for 9 years. We settled in. We got comfortable. It works. So let's make it not work and see if we can fix it again.
So bear with us.
So I expect next year to be different. To be frank,
The same but different.
It's time to stir the pot. And if you hate us for it, cool. At least we tried. So
you can throw things at us.
You can. We will encourage you.
You can throw things at him.
Network. You guys have some comments and numbers to give us? You want to come on up and do it? Yes. You want me to read? I can read. Okay. Can I read your handwriting? Can we start with that? It took 30 hours or so to build the con networks. We had 30 attendees, 7 staff, and 5 vendors. Actually, we had a few fewer vendors this year in labs than in years past. Enterasys does pretty much bring everything. They had 15 switches and 33 APs with 1 Wi-Fi. Oh, so we have a lot of redundant APs. And they even, it's funny, because I used to like hoard those little 8-port switches. And like they just had like a box of those little bastards because they were always required. And then like last year I walked in and there were just Enterasys switches everywhere. And I'm like, my switches are crying. Can you do something with them? They feel really bad, you know? Went out to Staples and bought all the cheapest, crappiest switches I could find. We had Airtight running the whips with 8 sensors. Palo Alto was running Firewall, right, that's what they make. We had some, I'm sorry for the Palo Alto rep in the room, you guys make firewalls, I bow to it, there we go, I said it. Hate myself for that. Cisco's ACES for streaming, is that how we're doing rate limiting?
Yeah, so we're doing Palo Alto 4.
Here you go. There you go. Look at him jump. He's spry for his age.
So, yeah, no kidding. I'm older than you. So, Palo Alto, everything is going through the Palo Alto, all the attendees, vendors, sponsors, speakers. But the streaming and part of CTF, which is now in the cloud, is going through another
you mean it's
firewall.
on the internet?
So, yeah, it's in the cloud.
Christ.
If you go to labs, you'll see a cable going up. That's going to the cloud. So yeah, so we have two IPs, external IPs. So streaming is important, so you can watch it from home. So that's it.
Cool. There are 30 different VLANs. Man, we like to segment. We had a 20 meg uplink, which costs a lot of money from the hotel. You think they make money on coffee service? You see what they make on internet. What's the bill, give or take?
$12,000.
$12,000 for 20 meg service for 3 days. Somebody, one of the B-Sides DC folks, I don't know if they're here, they're over there, they were asking us yesterday, like, you know, how do you get cheap internet from the hotel? Like, we don't. We're just damn lucky that we have the money to cover it, because otherwise we would be internetless. And we would have Louise be in the cloud. And you could ask him Google questions and he would tell you. How do I pop a shell on a FreeBSD box? C:\\, anywho, IPv6, something. Okay, that's the labs. On-site registration. So it went smoothly after the first 5 minutes. I think we had a few hiccups with the QR codes.
But it was literally fixed in 5 minutes.
It was literally fixed in 5 minutes, but it was different. And I think, you know, when we test it in the office and in our houses and things, it works. And then you get here and people have printed out. One guy had something that looked like he printed out like on a HP 500 that was on an earthquake table. He's like, this is as clean as I could get it to print. I'm like, with what? Like, I don't understand what's happened. You know, and the phone scanned well on some machines and the paper scanned well on others. We got to sort that out. But I think for the most part, the QR code worked out pretty well. QR readers are scary, or these optical readers. Do some research on them, man. Like, because they read every barcode type known to mankind. They're configured through barcodes. Shh, whatever, people are going to figure it out. When you want them to accept control characters, you scan a barcode that says accept control characters. What? So, here, check this one first. Does it work? Nope. Okay, try this one. It's terrible. And Todd and some of the other guys spent a long time trying to lock these things down. Lock down your barcode readers. It's frightening. Like, why the hell do I live in a time that this has to be an issue? You know? You know, I know you can put like malicious QR codes to like take the people with their phones to malicious websites. I'm like, I'm just gonna go own Old Navy or something. Like, you know, like this is I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, damn it. The Reg staff really has this down. You know, wash, rinse, repeat. They just handed out the things. We still were up to about 6 or a person every 6 seconds, give or take, through there. So we moved the line pretty quick once we got up to full tilt. And we do roll those T-shirts in advance. We go down to my office, we sit around, we drink some beers, eat some pizza, and roll T-shirts, because it's a lot easier to take a T-shirt that's been rolled with a size on it than it is to go through a frickin' bunch of shirts and try to find it. So, you know, it's little things like that. That's a whole day of prep. to get ready so that it runs smoothly here. We literally move everything down to the office, print out all this stuff, cut it, people descend upon the office, we make this whole progression of people doing folding.
We call it a party.
We call it a party to make people convinced that it's a good time.
And we bring beer.
And we bring beer, but it's a lot of volunteer work so that when you walk in and you hand us $15, we hand you a t-shirt and you're back on with your life. And it seems like a small thing when it happens to you, but you got to realize, again, there's a lot of volunteer time that goes in the backside to make it happen. And I think that's one of the things that kind of struck me this year. We were ahead of the game when it came to prep, but it's because we were spending a lot of time early on, prep, being ready for the event. So we're streaming video again. I think third, fourth year we're doing this. We're gotten good. We've tested it. We've even backups. Like we got laptops ready in case our normal laptops die. We're using.
We didn't have that last year, so.
No, we didn't.
We got lucky.
We did get lucky. This year we were ready. We used Flash Media Encoder to stream to Ustream. And to be clear, Ustream I think used to archive the stuff for free or whatever. I don't really know. We always host our own videos. We rip them ourselves. We put them on our website. We don't put them on YouTube. We don't give the money to Google to add or whatever.
On that note.
On what note?
On the DVD note.
Oh, on the DVD note, please buy Ted's DVDs. He's here. He drives across the country. That's how he makes his money. Also note that Ted's DVDs are not free. We know we had a few people go, oh, DVDs, and walk by and snag them. I think it was an innocent mistake. If you've inadvertently done that, please go throw some money at Ted. Preferably make it rain, because you should see Ted dance. Yeah. Maybe not, but it's interesting. We supply our own security staff, and we're not talking like, tasers and stuff, but, it's our own people who walk around and make sure everything's okay, things are accounted for, people have badges on. Shenanigan level is relatively low. I think it's because it's all the show of force that we have. I don't know. Maybe we're just all nice people. We're not the hacker cons we used to be. We have had a lot of success in not delineating security from other staff. And I know some conferences, there's security and there's staff. We feel very strongly that everybody's just staff. And it's worked for us. But I think part of it may be we don't have a very rowdy crowd, so there isn't a need to go.
Let's keep it that way.
Yeah, let's keep it that way. I appreciate it. We rent radios from a local vendor. At some point we thought about buying them, but it's pretty cheap to rent radios. They deliver them to the hotel and pick them up from our house. We don't even have to think about them. They handle everything. So there's the radio right there, actually. Thank you, Louise. All contests came back. We did something different with the badge contest. Mm-hmm. Is that the same from last year, or different? You'll find out at closing. Shh. How many people participated in any contest? Any at all? Did you enjoy it? You want to see them again next year? You like them? I think that one of the things that happened this year is our contests were a little bit more reachable, I think, for some folks. In the past, some of them have been difficult. If you looked at the Shmooconography opening when they were flipping through all the things, I think it was like Shmooconography 2011 was the most mind-bending series of dots that you had to connect to make that thing work. He explained it to me once, and I was like, shut up. Really? That's what it's supposed to be? It was only marginally more difficult in the year that we gave punch cards to people as a badge, but they weren't readable, so you had to actually enter in all the dots onto something else, and there were 16 designs. That drove people nuts. You know who solved that? Darth Null. How many years later? 3 years. No, but still, come on now. The fact that I couldn't believe when he said it, oh, here's a solution. I was like, holy shit. I'd forgotten all about that. I'm surprised nobody killed us. Vendors and sponsors, we had 32 sponsors this year, including labs. So the labs, when they give us gear, we just consider them a bronze sponsor.
They're a lab sponsor.
They're a lab sponsor. And so they get signage on the back of the things, and they get on the labs banner and stuff, and we recognize their contribution here.
They get super exposure within the labs.
They do get a lot of exposure in the labs. It works very well from a hands-on perspective. The bronze level sponsorships are reserved for only small businesses. And we've had a few businesses that they've grown. We've shepherded them to other sponsorship levels to say, we know you're bigger than this. Go forth, buy a silver. And it's worked out well. And we're serious about that. You can get, small businesses can get their name on the same placard that, big defense contractors are in this conference. And we are pretty passionate about getting that exposure to folks. That said, we still limit sponsorship. We have a luxury. We have two amazing luxuries running this con. We know we're going to sell out. And we know we're going to get more.
Let's not change that either.
Let's not change that. And we know we're going to get more sponsorship interest than we can deal with, right? it doesn't get any better. We recognize it. We recognize that we can take all kinds of risks and do all kinds of crazy things and not stress about the money because we know y'all are going to show up and the sponsors are falling over themselves to sponsor the place. And I know there's other conferences that aren't that lucky, and people ask us, how do you do it? I got nothing for you. I'm sorry. It started out well the first time, and it just kept going, you know, and that's how it worked. And there was no secret sauce. We just attention to detail. Everything you see here has resulted in what's happening. So, you know, we're going to continue to push for the sponsors to do something different. You know, again, there's lots of interesting things going on at the booths. I encourage you to go around, et cetera, et cetera. Last slide. I know they're waving furiously in the back, and the people online are probably like slowly trailing off. Feedback. So
I think we lost them a long time.
we probably did. The feedback interface is up this year. It's a little bit reworked. We encourage you use it, or if you don't want to use the website, you can just
email.
You can always email. And we're crappy about email, especially leading up to the con. After the con, we tend to get a little bit better about responding. But even then, you know, we have jobs, kids sometimes. Things just happen, and we apologize if we don't get back to you. And you feel free to harass us. Like, if you ping us again, say, hello.
Plus Space Road.
Yeah, sorry.
Why is Shmoocon on the list?
What?
Isn't Shmoocon feedback for you?
It is, but it's not. It's kind of temporal. You know, it doesn't really last, except for the scar. You may see it right there. Yeah, the PTSD. Clearly, like I obviously have some therapy I need to be going to because I don't flinch that bad on anything. Man, I was getting ready to fall on the ground.
You scared me.
I scared myself. We take it real serious. You know, we take the feedback real serious. We try to put on the best event we can. You know, this is all about transparency, right? I mean, I don't think you can get much more open than this. We're not going to invite you into our email list to plan the thing because nothing will get done. But beyond that, I'm not sure how we could be more open. I encourage you to, if you're running events, share information when you can. CFP information is really useful. I know that like we share that and other conferences share that, and it's a lot of value to people to get the CFP information out. You know, financial information is useful. But even if you can't share it, just learn, try to, you know, soak up what you can from us and other people because we do this to try to help you guys. So real quick, are there any questions on this? What? Slides will be up on the website. The video will be on the website as well.
I have received one set of slides so far, so.
I think you meant these slides. These slides will be on the website, yeah.
No,
West
these?
Point didn't show up this year?
West Point,
Well, so, yes. They're here.
they're here.
You didn't have them on your stat page.
Because we, they are on there, they're just counted differently. Usually we, in the past they've just given me a check that I haven't even issued barcodes because they show up in a big group. But because of how they came this year, I actually issued barcodes, so they are in there, but they didn't need to be special. But they are special.
All the service academies were represented here this year, Air Force, Naval, and USMA. And even in the face of sequestration and
They got here.
and the travel restrictions and all that, which if you're in DoD or the government, you know about, it's still cadets taking their own time, spending their own money to come here. You know, to not only protect our nation, but to actually try to learn and come down here. So, and they got off post too. I mean, you know, there's some selfishness, I think, of not being in the wilderness of New York. And they can wear their civvies. So, you know, there's some good sides. But in fairness, I mean, they persevere, and it's great to have them here. And it's great to have everybody here that, you know, again, we were talking to a reporter earlier. I'm like, it's a group of people that show up on a weekend to come to D.C. and hang out with a bunch of other sweaty people wearing black T-shirts.
It has nothing to do with the alcohol.
And there's nothing to do with the alcohol. You know, we're dedicated. I mean, to sit through me talking about this nonsense for an hour, I mean, you care. So go forth and do better than we did. That's all we ask you to do. So anyway, with that, 8 o'clock, see you at the party.
No, you won't.
I won't, but you will.